First of all, Dean, thank you so much for doing this on such a quick notice. Lovely to have you on the interview series. We're doing this with the Cosmos Hub, and especially we're shooting multiple format content, Cosmos who are attending this conference. I think I would like to begin with a quick introduction from you and what you do.
Sure. So I'm Dean Tribble. I'm CEO of Agoric, which is a Cosmos SDK-based chain that enables cross-chain applications, cross-chain smart contracts to be able to take, end-to-end use cases from one token to another, from one ecosystem to another that lasts over time. So, money from Ethereum, bring it over, swap it for Flix tokens and buy something on OmniFlix, or stake a token and every day wake up and compound the staking.
Could you explain about why this problem is important to be solved, especially in the blockchain space and even in Cosmos?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's critical to be solved, right? Particularly with the explosion of connectivity, the explosion of IBC, the modular explosion, you got more and more chains making a more and more fragmented environment and more fragmented liquidity. What we need to deliver, what users want, the chain abstraction challenge is they want simple experiences that span all those things. And in particular, like the app chain thesis, the modular thesis, Cosmos is leading the way in let's make lots of sovereign things that talk to each other. But from the user's perspective, they want to be able to see them all as one thing that just gives them the experience of all of the services and all of the new ideas or new advantages this technology brings and roll it up together into simple user experiences. And so that requires not just the connectivity that we've done an awesome job on so far, but the ability to program across it, the ability to write a smart contract where the user can say, I've got my money here, I want that thing over there, make it happen. Or, I've got my money here, I want stake token on this brand new chain, and I want it compounded, make it happen. Right? And that should all be able to happen on chain, and that's what Agoric orchestration enables. That's what we've been working on, and that our platform that is designed to do lots of other things we've talked about before. It turns out this is a piece that it uniquely solves that everyone now realizes they need. Right? And it's not just here's this new future vision. It's people with use cases right now, like OmniFlix, like Stargaze, like Osmosis, like Neutron, all these things. They have end users that want to be able to use their assets on other chains to do the thing that they've got in front of them. They want to buy their tickets, buy their NFTs with their money that's over there, or their money that's in a yield optimizer, or it's in an LP position, and they'd like to just push a button, approve that, and make that happen.
Why did you choose to launch Agoric on Cosmos?
So because Cosmos is our peeps. We looked at many infrastructures. We looked at Polkadot, looked at Ethereum, looked at all these things. Cosmos is the place that has at its roots sovereign construction of your own thing that then cooperates voluntarily with other participants in the economy. And that's how economies work. The economies, the real world doesn't have stop everything while I do my one trade and okay, now you go. It's like, no, there's all these things happening in this, chaotic, asynchronous mess of independent activities with everyone wanting to do their own thing, and yet we can bring them all together to deliver simple user experiences. We can bring them all together to give that richness and make it available to end users. And, Cosmos is the place where people are building their own thing and connecting it with everyone else, leveraging the other services that are available to them. And that's what Web3 needs to succeed, is it needs that at a base and then delivering that as a simple user experience.
For Cosmos Hub, what is your vision for the future? What's something that's coming next year and then over a period of 5 years?
So I don't have a lot of thought about hubs in particular, other than broad connectivity. Cosmos Hub has the core asset of the Cosmos ecosystem, Atom, which laid the groundwork for all of this. And it's got a lot of the engineering around it working on the next generation of IBC, the next generation of consensus, all these kinds of things. And there's a lot improvements that can be made going forward. There's a lot of value created now, and we should product that uses that. But with what they've gotten together with Cosmos 050, 052, there's sort of these important incremental improvements that are quite valuable and quite good, and I'd like more of that.
I'm going to jump into this other segment, and these are questions more about tooling, about governance, about developer journey, because you're also a long-term builder in this space. So tooling wise, what is one tooling that is built in any Cosmos chain or project that you're really enjoying?
So the telescope, that the name, right? Cosmology, the stuff that Dan Lynch and company have built. Once we got it talking to our stuff, we've now been working with them closely for a while on integrating our JavaScript with their JavaScript, on integrating their tooling with our tooling so that you can use their tools to generate JavaScript that runs as part of smart contracts on the Agoric chain. You can use their tools to generate the stubs so that from orchestration you can invoke specialized functions on other chains. We're talking about more and more cooperation where, we're two of the groups that are really making smart contracts and the off-chain management of it more accessible to more developers because it's making it accessible to those, 15 to 25 million JavaScript developers out there.
Governance-wise, what's a proposal on Cosmos Hub that just really got you sort of hooked into taking part in the past? There are so many sides to it, but there's always a special one where you're just okay, oof, this got it interesting.
That's one of those fun questions because I don't think in terms of proposal numbers. Once it's done, flush it and move on to the next thing. So the most important recent one to me are the ones around the Cosmos Hub providing Atom to provide liquidity for IST. And that's partly important because, IST is a project, stablecoin, stable token built on the Agoric system, over-collateralized, designed for the interchain to be able to use it, to use collaterals from all these different systems. But that was the Atom community saying, yes, we want to support that, we want that. And so that felt sort of, us getting included, that felt like we had reached them with something they cared about, and so that was really important to me.
Which upcoming consumer chain are you super excited about in Cosmos?
I don't think about consumer chains. I mean, I don't think about are they consumer or are they not. It's are they cool. So there's Ellis is coming out. Is it a consumer chain? It's running Cosmos stuff. It talks IBC. I'm good. So I couldn't tell you.
Agoric by itself is a fairly technical product, and you mentioned about why you launched it on Cosmos. How does, from just a technical perspective, Cosmos differ from other blockchains that are out there?
So there's a couple of important ways. I'll say IBC is in some sense the number one thing. In other ecosystems, they talk about getting connected, and it's a big hullabaloo, because they managed to get these two EVM things talking. And in Cosmos, that's Thursday, right? I launched a chain, I got connected, pushed buttons, relayers come up, and now, I can go take my thing over to Osmosis and make a curve. I can go over to Astroport, set up a thing, and now my token is there, and that's Thursday, right? So that's one of those things where that's a big deal, and it needs to be, that's just Thursday. It needs to be easy rather than a big deal. So it's sort of a big deal that it's easy, right? And so that's one of the key differentiators. But the other is Cosmos per se, the Cosmos stack, is for making singular experiences. It doesn't really have a mechanism to have independent competing parties coexist with each other. We've built that with layering, whether it's Cosmwasm to some extent, or you can do those in JavaScript. There's multiple projects able to use each other, but they're independent running on the VM platform. Or you start moving into doing that by having roll-ups and side chains, or just your own chain. So that's different from most other platforms. It's different from ETH. It's different from Solana, where they are fundamentally a VM platform where you install things. That's interesting to have components so close. I occasionally think of blockchains as sort of independent cities. And so every city, you kind of want a bank, you kind of want, local services, but this one specializes in movies. You might know a blockchain like that, right? This one specifies in art, and this one specializes in art, and this one specializes in banking and all this sort of stuff. But they all, want to have a bank, and you can buy art in all these places, right? And so, that's what Cosmos does, where I've got all these chains, but with connectivity, I can kind of reach them and use these services from other places. That's something that is different, about how you go about doing things in Cosmos.
We have this quick rapid fire. Atom as a token, buy, sell, or avoid?
Compound was the answer that I thought was going to be
that was the second bit, but I
if you have Atom, hold on to it, right? There's a lot of people with a lot of interest in making it relevant and worthwhile. A capital asset is really valuable. So this is one of those things where a year from now, looking backwards, the world is not going to be what you think. But clearly Cosmos SDK is a really important part of it. I'm holding mine.
Who should be the CEO of Cosmos?
It's all about decentralization. So, having a centralized, executive orchestrator, I don't know.
Name one challenge facing Cosmos Hub.
The challenge facing Cosmos Hub is, how to be relevant to other chains that are launching, how to be relevant to the modular revolution, that sort of stuff. And that's different from, the challenge facing Cosmos or the challenge facing ICF, which to me, those are about how to extend this capability and technology and vision out there. And, but those are some of the key.
Your favorite interchain wallet?
My favorite interchain wallet. Let's see. So I will say Kepler, though we work closely with MetaMask and helped, and the Snaps is core to our technology. The reason I'll say Kepler, not only have we worked with them for a while and they've got they're great and thoughtful. They did a lot of early work on how do we deal with this multi-denom thing in a UI thing, and that's critical. Everyone else is just starting to get there. Obviously, Cosmos Station Wallet has been facing that, and anything in the Cosmos space has seen it before, but they've been doing that. And then the other thing is their multi-sig product. An executive of a company, as someone who works with foundations, someone who works with multiple other foundations, dealing with the multi-sig thing is hard. And they've got the best tool that I've seen, certainly in Cosmos, and and I haven't seen a lot outside of it, but in Cosmos it's great. And so, if they could take that and integrate it with their normal wallet, as we've been talking about a little bit, that would be even better. But just having that, Vitwit has a good one. Kepler has one that is, just that much more spot on my particular use cases. So I will selfishly applaud that.
What was your first token and how did you get it?
What was my first token? I think it was Atom. We got it as we won a hackathon. Was it maybe at the first Cosmoverse? I don't know. No, it was in Berlin. So we won a hackathon. We had two winners. One was we got some initial version of JavaScript running on Cosmos, and the other was the thing that led to Snaps and led to Lava Mode at MetaMask, where we worked with them to use our hardened JavaScript to secure the supply chain for MetaMask, because it's got 250,000 module imports in JavaScript, and most programs, not just JavaScript but Rust and everything else, only 3% of the code is built for your app and the rest is libraries, which means you've got this huge security exposure and being able to confine all those libraries so you can safely load libraries and not give them all their authority is something that uniquely now is available in JavaScript because of our technology, and it's not available in any other programming language. Not Rust, not WASM, not Java, not C#, any of those things. And so they've been leveraging that ever since in order to make it safer. And, we worked with Cosm.js to harden that, and as I say, we worked with the cosmology folk to integrate that stuff in. And so, but we won 2 prizes for that, and the prize was in Atoms.
Amazing. Okay, that's a very interesting start to getting your first Atom. Mine was on a centralized exchange. What's your hot take about interchain security? Do you think it'll be the backbone of major Cosmos projects in the coming years or not?
So I really there's a model of get started small and be in a position to grow, right? And so to me, the smallest is run your application on a VM. If you don't need a custom consensus, if you don't need custom behavior in the blocks, build on a VM, right? Just don't deal with any of that. But the next step up is, be a rollup. And the next step up is be a sidechain that uses interchain security. Next step up is have your own set of validators and do your own thing, right? But having your own set of validators, if you're not a platform that really needs it, or you don't have something that's deeply unique about the performance trade-offs or characteristics or what have you, then running your own set of validators doesn't make a lot of sense if you can rely on an existing set of validators. So, I don't think it is, everything and that everyone should use it for all things, but I think it's a very important place in the space of running on a VM, roll-ups, and on out to complete independent sovereignty.
Is there any conspiracy theory that made you laugh a lot about Cosmos? Like, just like Twitter jabber or something.
There are so many, well, so there's the Illuminati that are behind. Yeah, I mean, the answer is no, not really. People have tried to have conspiracy theories about the Tribble stuff, but I had nothing to do with kicking that off, so I don't know any of the conspiracy theories. So.
And you approve that message.
That's right. I approve that.
I think so. We're at the end of the interview. I mean, thank you so much for this. Do you want to give like a catchphrase of sorts about Cosmos? Like, like something like, let's make Cosmos great again.
I'm never going to use that phrase. No, my catchphrase is orchestrate all the things. I'll think about that, but so we can come back to that. It's one of those things where, back to my point, in Cosmos, we've been leading the way on independent, interconnected things. Yeah. The rest of the world is getting there.
Yeah.
Let's take what we know, let's take what we've built, let's take what we've learned, and, and just drive it out into the world and take advantage of it. I mean, is Hyperlane, is Union Bridge, or are all these things Cosmos? I mean, spiritually, yeah. Technology-wise, yeah, kind of. Right? So some part of it is keep driving that technology and vision forward, but out into the rest of the cryptoverse. But I think that Cosmos should really lead the way into that multi-chain future.
Amazing. I would take that.
Good.
Thank you so much for the interview.